Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happens every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Carolyn. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. What a week.
Yeah, that is for sure.
How are you feeling after this week?
That's a loaded question. It's definitely been an emotional week. We don't get partisan on this podcast, but it's hard not to just feel and be transparent about how we're feeling. It's been a tough week. I am a little just scared of the unknown right now, of what the next few years are going to look like. It's definitely been tough for a few different reasons. How about you?
I agree. There is that fear of the unknown, even though we've been through it before. And I think that's also what makes it scarier is we know what it looked like and know that it's could be ramped up. But I really wanted to make myself smaller. I just wanted to crawl into something and not come out. I needed that time. And now after some reflection, I'm like, actually, I don't want to make myself smaller at all. I just really want to make myself bigger and really be authentically me, because if I can think about my role in things I can control, sometimes I hide certain parts of myself or make parts of myself smaller so that other people can be more comfortable. And I'm vowing not to do that anymore. I really want to be so authentically myself, be bigger in ways, really let my personality show, and make sure that people know exactly what's important to me, because I want to make sure that I know when I go to sleep that I've done everything I can to make sure that people who say they care about me know exactly who I am and what they're caring about, because you don't just get to care about me for one piece of me. You have to care about all of me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's something I constantly struggle with as well. And I think probably a lot of people in the queer community can agree with that. To your point, it's just how do you live your life and try to block out the outside noise and not worry what other people think, because at the end of the day, you have to make yourself happy and do what's right for you. And other people are clearly making the choice to do that. So why shouldn't we? I think we do generally a pretty good job of living authentically to begin with, but just a reminder that, yeah, you don't want to make any part of yourself smaller. I appreciate the conversations we've been having all week and conversations with people close to us that care and have the same values and understand where we're coming from. That's definitely made me feel better throughout the week.
Yes, for sure. Being in community, which we'll talk about a little bit more soon, I think has been extremely helpful. And like I said, I wanted to be small and I wanted to isolate. And then as soon as I got with our community, it felt instantly better, and we could talk. We could talk about what we were afraid of, and we could laugh and make light of a really not so light situation and all of that stuff, which I think was really, really important. And the other thing that I've been thinking about is it can feel like, especially as just one citizen in the United States, it can feel really hard to make changes and to feel like as a society we're going backwards. And so what I've been thinking about is like, okay, what are the things that I can do every day? What are the actions that I can take every day to make sure that I'm supporting the things that are important to me? Because I can't change those big things that maybe I would want to if I were queen for a day, but I can change the things that I do every day. What are my values and what are the things that are important to me? And then how am I taking actions, small actions to contribute to those? Because I think in the long run, that's what's going to make impacting lasting change. What are the things that I can do beyond yelling into an echo chamber on social media? What are the actions I can do?
Yeah, totally agree. So we'll have to continue to have those conversations and figure out what's most important to us, and maybe find something we can do together or do separately. Maybe we do find something that kind of meets both the needs of what we're looking to reach or not, and that's okay.
And if you are listening and you have everyday actions or things that you do to contribute to causes, to things that are important to you, please let us know, because I have some ideas, but I am sitting here like, okay, how can I make impacts that are worth everyone's time and actually going to good causes? So if you have ideas, please send them our way. And I would be very open to hearing how other people are making impacts in their community beyond the conversations that we can have with the people who say they love us. So.
Yes, for sure. And with how heavy the week is, it was good timing that we had a little getaway. And let me tell you, if wine tasting or wine drinking was a sport, we would have gotten gold medals this weekend. And I'm not too proud of that at the moment, especially with my race coming up. I've been spiraling, but you know what? It was a fun weekend for sure.
So we got an Airbnb this past weekend. We drove out to Palisade with some friends, and it was really nice to be around friends, to talk with them, to get to drink with them, to get to explore with them. And Palisade, Colorado is just such a beautiful place to be. And we ate good food and we drank good wine and we played games. And I've been trying to play this peg board game that you get at Cracker Barrel, and shout out to your sister Amanda and her boyfriend James for getting it for us, but I have not gotten it down to one peg. And so I was trying to do that all weekend. We were playing Spot It, which is a super fun game. We were playing Chameleon, which is like this game to find out how good of a liar other people are. We did get to just be with friends, and being in community, I think, was so important for this past weekend, even if we are a little bit hungover from this past weekend.
For sure. Palisade's also really pretty. It's just closer to the border of Utah, and the landscape really changes from what you think when you think of Colorado as like the Rocky Mountains. And in Palisade, it's more deserty with these massive, not mountains, what are those called? Plateaus? No. Massive rock formations that they just vary, and it's so pretty. Running Friday morning when you all went to spin class, I just saw such beautiful scenery, and I just love that part of traveling too, seeing things on foot and really getting to take it all in. I really enjoyed that aspect of it too. And every winery you go to, it's just unbelievable views.
And people are so knowledgeable about wine, and I'm not particularly knowledgeable about wine. I know what I like, and I know what I generally don't. I love a history lesson. When we go on vacation, like, I'm always going to try to do some kind of historical tour. I love when people tell me fun facts. And so wineries are actually pretty great for me because I get some fun facts. I get a tour, and I get to drink and eat food and charcuterie. It's all my favorite things in one place.
I can't recommend it enough there.
Do you have a fun fact that you liked from this past weekend that you learned?
Yes. I thought when you see a label of wine and it says the year, I thought that's when the wine was bottled. So like a 2016 Cabernet. In my head, I always assumed, okay, that was bottled in 2016 or made in 2016. I don't know exactly what I thought, but just had this idea in my head of what the year meant. What I learned is the year on the wine bottle is the year that the grapes were picked. So even if the grapes were picked in 2016, put in a freezer for a few years, taken out, and then the wine was created in 2022, it would still say 2016. Yeah. So that was one of my favorite facts because I just did not know that at all. And I thought that was a cool thing to learn. How about you?
The oak barrels that they keep them in, that was cool to see. I think they said 300 bottles in an oak barrel. Was that right?
I'm pretty sure it was around 300, yeah, which is wild.
And the cost of those oak barrels, wineries can buy them from other wineries, and some wineries get new oak barrels every single time. Just the cost up front that goes into it, and the science behind the grapes, and all the levels that they're looking at to decide when to pick, and down to even a day and an hour of when to pick to try to get the best, most flavorful grape or the notes that they're looking for, was really interesting to me. And also, so like people who drink wine are like, oh, it has like a chocolate finish, or it has like lavender on the nose or peach or whatever. In beer, you actually put those things in it. You'll put the flavors in while you're making beer. But in wine, they're not actually putting any of that in it. It's all about the grape
and how it's fermented and how it's created.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I was like, I really thought they were putting some little chocolate in there and peach to get that flavor. But no, it's strictly coming from the grape. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Great weekend. We're definitely tired and paying for it now, but well worth it.
That should be the name of our podcast. We're tired. We're tired and we're talking about sports.
Tired is to be expected.
Let's get into the highlight reel for this week. I will start with tennis. Coco Gauff, number 3 in the world, wins the WTA finals in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So the WTA finals is not a Grand Slam, but it is the final tournament of the tennis season. Coco Gauff beat China's Zhang Qinwen after losing the first set. She came back and won in 3 sets, but the final wasn't even the coolest part. The best part for Coco is that in this tournament, she beat number 2 in the world, Iga Swiatek, in the group stage, and then beat number 1 in the world, Aryna Sabalenka, in the semifinals last Friday. She had to beat the 2 people in front of her. She had to beat number 2 in the world and number 1 in the world, 2 players who she's lost to repeatedly throughout this season, to come on top and win the whole thing. It was just a really good ending for her.
For sure. And I think the last time I probably saw her play was the US Open, because that's the last big tournament I watched. And obviously that did not go the way she wanted to. And to see her upset there, and now to see her bounce back in this tournament and obviously be very proud of herself, I think that was really cool to see. And it just goes to show, like, sports are just wild. And this goes for everything. You could play the same person over and over and over again, and the win-loss column can just go back and forth. So that's what makes sports so great.
The resiliency to just stay with it and stay on course and have the trust that you could win.
For sure.
I love Coco. I just love her energy. I love what she brings onto the court. I love what she says after matches. I just think she's so solid. So interesting with these WTA finals, as I mentioned, hosted in Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is notoriously known for sport washing.
I don't know a lot about sport washing. Can you explain that a little more?
Yes. Sport washing is the use of sports to whitewash a country's international reputation. Saudi Arabia has a really not great, actually really horrible human rights record. They've had a journalist killed in their consulate. They have numerous discriminatory laws against women and LGBTQ plus folks. And so we've seen other countries do this as well. They invite sports to come to them, and it's called sports washing because it's a really great way to hide, or not really necessarily hide, but to boost their reputation while distracting from the horrible things that may be happening underneath the scenes.
Got it.
And so they've done this in golf. They are doing this in soccer. Saudi Arabia is pouring like tons of money to bring sports to their country to distract from the other things that are happening. And then they are providing these really, really big payouts to the sports leagues and the people who win.
To that point, I saw a press conference with Coco Gauff after, and they mentioned, how do you feel about winning the amount of money you just won? And they said it's 4.8 million. And she was kind of taken aback. I'm sure she knew, but it seemed like she didn't know the amount, and she was taken aback and just laughing it off a little bit because she didn't know how to react. To me, I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money for winning a tennis tournament that's not even like the US Open, one of the major ones. So I was shocked by that.
I also think that press conference was just so interesting to me because you're putting a woman of color, in a position where, yes, of course, they're going to be grateful for the $4.8 million that they just won. And that question alone even feeds into that sport washing even more. The other piece that is interesting, and I don't know if it's happened with the WTA, but I do know that in other agreements that Saudi Arabia has made with major sports leagues, that they try to include a non-disparagement agreement. So they pretty much say, yes, we'll give you all this money to come to Saudi Arabia and do your tournament, but you as a league, you as employees of that league cannot say anything disparaging about Saudi Arabia while we're paying you. You can't talk about human rights things that are happening. You can't do any of that. They're literally paying their way so that people cannot say anything negative about their country. And I just feel like it's a really slippery slope. Do you think leagues should be doing this, like going to countries where there's major concerns and creating a lot of revenue for them and creating a lot of positive attention when there might need to be more eyes on the negative things they're doing? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it sounds like the agreements that they sign are taking away athletes' ability to stand on their platform and share more about it. I think the only way around it is you don't go and you speak up on why you're not going. But to put a 20-something-year-old kid, and that, I don't know what the answer is. I feel like it would make more sense if leagues or ownership made those decisions and said, no, we're not going there. I don't care how much you're paying our athletes. It doesn't make sense to promote your country in this light when we know all these other things are happening. But as we know, the world is a very corrupt place and a lot of things do revolve around money. So I think people are going to continue to still do it. Do I think it's right? No. But do I think there's going to be a change? Also no.
Yeah. And I don't really put as much onus on the athletes to do that and to know. I do worry about the fans who are going there.
Like safety wise.
Yeah, safety wise. And like even the players crews, are they being treated respectfully? And they probably are, because it's probably just around this event, and that creates like this tiny little bubble. And I think there's major implications. And I think even in the long run, like if Saudi Arabia does something really, really horrible, are us Americans going to just know all the sports things that happen and then look at it in a different light because there's money being made there? I also think it's hard, especially after this past week, because it's like, oh my gosh, are we just so money driven?
Yeah.
And that's all we care about. We don't care about how humans are treated. We just only care about the ways to make the most amount of money. I just feel like a little butthurt about it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can turn an eye to it. If it's not affecting me, I don't need to look into it. And really, I could just pretend like I don't know what's happening and accept it. I think that happens a lot of the time in a lot of situations. And to answer your question, yes, I do think people are driven by money and how is it going to benefit them versus how it could be hurting others.
I just don't want to live in that world.
Well, we do.
I know.
Hate to break it to you.
I know. It's just not, it's not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
We've talked about values before and things that we've learned. And I always go back to my high school coach and the things that I've been taught, like good things happen to good people who work hard. And I know that that's not true. I know that bad things can happen to good people who work hard, and good things can happen to bad people who don't work.
Yeah.
It just shakes me at my core because that's not how I was brought up. And to just see it happen on such a global scale is hard.
Yeah.
I know it's not all roses, and I know there's many facets to life, but it's also just like, wow. And I don't mean to say that in like my values are better. It's just an awakening for me of like, oh, we're not playing on the same chessboard. You're on a totally different board that I don't know the rules to that.
Yep.
So congratulations, Coco Golf. Go get that bag. And I guess my hope is that people can start to ask questions of like, why are certain places hosting? And is it because they really care about women's sports, or is it because they really care about making sure their country looks a little bit better and trying to hide some pretty horrific human rights abuses? Let's move to something a little bit more positive, something that I really love to talk about. And that is
South Carolina Gamecocks and women's college basketball. It's here in full force. So many games over the past week. On Sunday, South Carolina played NC State and they beat them 71-57. So it was great to see Gamecocks in full force. We have some players back. We have some players not playing. I'm like, come on, Gamecocks, you got to get it together. Chloe Kitts was out of this game due to an academic policy. Probably means her grades need to come up a little bit, which is not good. So she was on the bench. And then we have Ashlyn Watkins back, who has been out since the summer.
Been suspended from the team.
Yes. So she was arrested on August 31st and charged with first-degree assault and battery and kidnapping after an incident at the student housing center. I remember back in August when this came out, it was just like this one post. That's all it said. There was nothing more shared. I was like, what is happening? Just recently, this past week, the charges against Ashlyn Watkins were dismissed by a judge because she completed a pretrial intervention program.
It's a great option. They have that.
Yep.
And let's just set some guidelines. You don't put your hands on somebody.
Yep.
You don't prevent them from going where they want to go, which that's what kidnapping is. Anytime that you prevent someone from going in a direction that they want to go, that's called kidnapping. I think of kidnapping of like stealing a child. But if you're preventing someone from leaving or something like that, that is considered kidnapping. And again, it's not good. And I think that this program that South Carolina offers for first-time offenders to perform community service and to make restitution to the people that they hurt and to participate in individual and group counseling, that's rehabilitative. Hurt people. And I don't think putting people, me personally, and I know this is not felt by everyone, I don't think putting people in jail is really helping a lot of people. I think if we were to step towards more rehab and more getting people the help that they need in order to not do it again, I'm always going to support that. So she did complete that and she came back on to the team.
Yes, I was really curious to see how Dawn was going to handle it in terms of playing. We had seen earlier in the week that she was returning to practice on Wednesday, and she did play big minutes in this game. And I know Dawn Staley's a great person. She's a great coach. she has such a strong connection with her players, and I'm sure she was with Ashlyn along that whole ride and making sure she was okay, but also making sure that she was following through with consequences. And to your point, first time offender, hopefully the last, and hopefully this is not a problem again. Okay. But it was definitely nice to see her back on the floor.
And what I will also say is Dawn Staley has such integrity. Like, Chloe Kitt's not playing. Chloe Kitt's had a great game against Michigan, was the team high scorer. She didn't do something with her academics, and she's sitting out for a game. And the moment that the charges came out about Ashlyn Watkins, she was immediately suspended from the team. Didn't get to go to the White House when the whole team went to the White House. So like Dawn, and I really think this, and I don't know this for sure, but I do think that they have very strict rules and guidelines of what each team member, what each coach has to do in order to stay on the team. And if those things aren't being met, then I do think there's consequences. And I think we see that with Dawn repeatedly. There's no one better. There's no one above the rules.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really appreciate. And I think that goes a long way for team culture. If you mess up, you know that there's going to be consequences. And it's not just, well, the best scorer on the team messed up and they didn't get consequences.
Exactly.
Like everybody's getting consequences.
Exactly. And I always appreciate that when it comes to coaching. So outside of that, Tahina Pau Pau led all scorers with 23 points. Malaysia Fulwiley added 18. Malaysia Fulwiley, she just is so fun to watch. Dynamic player.
Comes off the
bench. So athletic, and I just really love her game, and she gets into it with the crowd and feeds off of it.
Also, Tahina Pau Pau's floater, like this floater that she's added to her game, she is not just out there shooting threes. She has added this dribble floater thing. It's dangerous, and just to see her progress from last year to this year is very cool. I think she has WNBA dreams on her mind and is finding ways to make herself a little bit more dynamic. And she's playing defense, which she said she didn't really play defense at Oregon. And she started playing defense last year. And she's been playing even more defense even this year. So all very cool to see.
Yes. And the new freshman on South Carolina, Joyce Edwards, she's so fun to watch as well.
She does not look like a freshman.
No, not at all. And I think she's just going to fill in Camilo Cardoso's shoes, and it's not even going to be an issue. It's like they didn't lose anyone because she just seems legit. Yeah, from watching her over the weekend.
And she doesn't have Camilo Cardoso's length. She's definitely a different player. But the Gamecocks, they have a team of however many people, and the entire team would be a starter on any other team in the country. Yep. And they are just moving through them and always throwing more bodies at you, more people who can score, more people who are dynamic. I thought that they might be down, and after seeing them play against NC State, I'm like, okay, they have some things that they need to work out, but whoa.
I did not, for the record, think they were going to be down just because they lost Camilo Cardoso. I don't know.
I'm not down.
Okay.
Not down, but maybe not as dominant as last year. I never thought that.
I do not think that. Just setting the record straight here.
Camilo Cardoso was very important for the Gamecocks, but I didn't think after she left, oh, they're going to really struggle. That's not it, because I don't think she was that leader, that voice on the team. I think they're going to be just A-okay.
For sure. And then Zamaria Jones is a freshman on NC State who is also really fun to watch, so check her out. She led the Wolfpack with 16 points. They held on. They gave South Carolina a run. At halftime, they were very close, and then South Carolina went on a run in the third quarter, and NC State came right back. Yeah. So it was definitely a fun game to watch. They have a lot of really great returners, and to add this freshman in the mix, I think they're going to be one of the teams to watch this year as well.
If they can get all their guards moving together, they are going to be dangerous.
And last week, you had asked me the question, do I think South Carolina will go undefeated this year? I think we must tally now their winning streak as we go through the season. They are currently on their 40th straight consecutive win since that started at the first game last year. So I hope they can keep this win streak going. Malaysia Fulwiley was being interviewed after the game by the one and only
Holly Rowe.
Holly Rowe.
Never heard of her.
Shout out to Dottie.
Hold on, we have to pause. My mom one time said, we were talking about Holly Rowe and how she's literally everywhere. She'll be doing women's basketball at night and then doing college football the next morning in a totally different state. We saw her on TV and we're like, whoa, Holly Rowe is really everywhere. And my mom in classic, this is classic my mom, she was like, never heard of her. And I was like, yes, you have. You watch sports all the time and she's always on your TV.
Yeah, this was over a year ago, and every time she's on the TV, which is often, we always say, Holly Rowe, never heard of her. So inside joke there. But she was interviewing Malaysia Fulwiley after the game, and Malaysia said, we win together, we lose, Well, we don't lose together.
It was so great.
Again, she's a sophomore, so she literally has not lost since she's joined the team. So it was cute and funny to hear her say that. So hoping we could keep the Gamecocks on their winning streak.
And if you have other teams, we dive into the top 25. I obviously have a really big bias for the Gamecocks, and Danielle has her bias for Notre Dame. But if there are other matchups you see during the week and you want us to talk about them on the pod, make sure you send it to us so that we watch, and then we'll be happy to cover them. And I need to know who else is out there so that when it gets to NCAA bracket time, March Madness, I know who to put where. So tell us what you want us to watch.
And with that, we will move on to NWSL.
Yes. So NWSL playoffs are happening. This past weekend, we had all of our quarterfinal matches, but I'm going to talk about Gotham from New York, New Jersey, beating the Portland Thorns 2-1 to advance to the semifinals in the NWSL. As a reminder, Gotham is the defending NWSL champions. They won it last year, and they are the 3rd seed in this NWSL playoff tournament. We talked about the Portland Thorns last week. This was the final game for Portland Thorns' Christine Sinclair, who is retiring, and they did lose, so this was her final game.
She also looked very unamused sitting on the bench after it was close to the game being over, and I was like, damn, she's looking a little rough right now.
She was replaying everything the last 12 years in the NWSL.
I know, I shouldn't say that. I just felt bad because it just looked like a very depressing scene. They panned onto her face. I was like, she does not look okay right now.
Yeah.
And she did say some choice words.
Yeah, she dropped a big ol' F-bomb after the
walking
game.
Off the field. Obviously, they didn't have the
sound on,
but you could if you're a good lip reader, you knew what she was saying.
You didn't have to be a good lip reader to see what she was saying. That's also some of my favorite things, is to lip read and try to figure out what people are saying, but that was very clear. Big ol' F-bomb. At Red Bull Arena, where Gotham plays, there was a club record of 15,540 fans. We love to see it. Everyone
awesome.
Watches women's sports. So went scoreless for quite a while in this game, but in the 67th minute, Rose Lavelle sends a free kick, sent a ball in front of the goal, and Tierna Davidson on Gotham scored to put Gotham up 1-0. Then Portland responds with a goal from rookie Raylan Turner. The goal was a header off a set piece in the 75th minute to tie it up.
Yeah, so obviously a very exciting game to score in the 67th minute and then to come back right with another goal at the 75th minute to tie it up.
So it's 1-1, and we reach the end of the 90 minutes, and they add on 12 minutes of stoppage time, which is such a long time.
That was insane. When I saw 12 minutes, I literally thought for a second, wait, did overtime start? Like, I thought I might have missed something because I was like, there's no way.
Since implementing this VAR and all this time that they use, there's just a ton of stoppage time.
I still don't understand why soccer doesn't just stop the clock like every other sport so everyone knows exactly how much time is left in the game. It is the strangest thing to me.
Countdown.
It drives me wild.
It is a very quirky thing about soccer. So they added the 12 minutes on, and in the 7th minute of stoppage time, of extra time, Rose Lavelle from Gotham scores to put them up 2-1.
Who else but Rose Lavelle? I feel like she's been getting a lot of shout outs lately for good reason.
It's a good time to be Rose Lavelle right now. Rose Lavelle on a set piece, Rose Lavelle just anywhere on the field is always going to be dangerous. So Gotham moves on, and we go into the NWSL semifinals, which brings us right into what we're looking forward to this week.
Yes, so tell us about that game.
So Saturday, November 16th, the Washington Spirit play Gotham at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. This is the 2 versus the 3. There were no surprises in the quarterfinals. The top seed won. And that means that on Sunday, November 17th, the Orlando Pride will play the KC Current at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Orlando's the number 1 seed. KC Current is the number 4. This is going to be an interesting matchup. These 4 teams that are left can all beat each other on any given day. I don't know if we're going to see just the top seeds win here.
Yeah, it's going to be a great few matches. For me, I am looking forward to more college basketball games. We have UConn versus North Carolina on Friday, November 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Gino Auriemma is also on his way to pass Tara Vanderveer's wins to make him the most winningest coach in Division I NCAA history. UConn is one of those teams where they don't often play nationally, which is annoying.
It is so absurd. It's absurd that they don't have a better TV deal. The Pac-12 used to do that. They had such a shitty media TV deal. UConn's in the Big East. And it's like, what are you doing? You are missing out on so much money by playing these games on SNY.
Yeah, I don't get it. But in a different game we were watching, they were talking about Gino and how he's coming close. And they were like, if they can hold on to this game, then he'll be one win closer. And I turned to you and I'm like, oh my God, I better look up the score. Like, it must be close. And then Ryan Rucco goes, they're up 35 with about 2 minutes to go. So I guess it's safe to say that they're going to win this one. I'm like, yeah, making me think it's a close game over there. But anyways, no surprise. Gino is an incredible coach. We've talked about him before. Sad to see Tara's short-lived wins, but Stanford just named the court after her, which is really cool, and well-deserved retirement. I'm sure she's not too worried. She knew Gino was coming for her.
And she still has that bomb coat, which I don't think Gino's going to have as cool of a coat.
I don't know. His players, like, maybe Paige will get something in the works. I could see that. All the players making him something.
I want them to ice him out. Provide a crazy chain for him to wear.
That would be pretty funny.
That's it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Share the podcast with your friends and keep sending us topics you want us to cover on Instagram at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Thanks for joining us.